Oh, man. Your SEC Insider hit today brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Bundle your auto and home. Save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent, favorites.com. There for you in all 82 counties in the great state of Mississippi. Exciting that we had college football and high school football, and fans attended. Gasp. It is not the apocalypse. It's a bunch of nonsense. Unbelievable. This is good. This is good. More sports on the way, too, which is a good thing. We're powered by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook. You're looking at LSU as about a 17-point favorite, Blake, over Mississippi State down in Baton Rouge. LSU's more talented. They're better. They sign more talent every year. They will not have the home field advantage, though. So, 20,000 people in the stands. That'll be interesting to see how that goes. But it will not be 105,000 crazy people in the stands. Not sure how that looks. And then Florida at Ole Miss. Does it get any better that Dan Mullen's coming back into the state of Mississippi? Ole Miss fans hate him. And he'll be coaching in Vaught Hemingway for the Lane Train's first game. Those are delicious storylines, too. Dan Mullen and the Gators in Oxford. And they're are they a 14-point favorite?
I believe that's right. I think 10.5 was what it was last week.
10.5.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm thinking Southern Miss. My bad.
Yeah.
Southern Miss is a 14 to 14.5 point favorite over South Alabama.
It was 10 or
this
10.5
Thursday night.
last
Right.
week.
Ole Miss is not, but about a 10 and a hook underdog to the Florida Gators, whereas Mississippi State 17 and a half, depending on the book, against LSU in Baton Rouge.
We'll see how accurate these first week lines are. Boy, if there's ever been a season to try to take advantage of chaos in sports gambling, this is it, because there's just no way to know everything that's happening, especially at the collegiate level where HIPAA and all these other things allow you to kind of be secretive.
That's right.
It's going to be fun.
College Game Day on ESPN Radio. He is Brad Edwards joining us on the Parish Brewing guest line. Brad, good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yeah, take all the dogs. Week 1, maybe even week 2. Just grab the points everywhere because Blake's right. Like nobody. Well, I shouldn't say nobody knows like who the better teams are because I think in most cases we do. But how much better? I mean, LSU is a great example. I mean, Jamar Chase was just the latest loss they've had from last year. It's difficult to quantify how much LSU lost from a year ago. And that was arguably the greatest offense in the history of college football. But, they lost. I mean, who knows what the drop-off is at quarterback. And then you look at running back, and while, we're all sure that whoever LSU is going to have on the roster and throw out there is still going to be pretty good. Then though you look at receiver and, out of the top 4 targets from last year, with Chase opting out, 3 of them are gone. What is this LSU offense now, and how does it even compare to what it was a year ago? I assume that they'll still, they'll still go in a pass-happy direction. That change from last year is something that no matter what the personnel is moving forward, I think Coach O would be stupid not to stick with that, considering how well it worked. But are you going to have players who are going to run that offense as well as they did? No way. Not to mention they're just less experienced overall. So, just trying to even guess how much of a drop-off there'll be for LSU on that side of the ball alone, not to mention, the other side. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that LSU is close to as good, especially week 1, close to as good as it was the last time it took the field. So, and you mentioned that, the crowd. I mean, Tiger Stadium won't be a factor. A lot of reasons to like State to, be able to keep this game a little bit closer than most people would expect.
So you take the points, 17 plus.
Yeah, look, like I said, in general, I think just around the country, it's just, if you're into that, if that's what you spend your Saturdays doing, I would say as a general rule, just just grab points, because even where we know, favorites and what they have coming back, and Florida is one of those teams that they have been about as stable as you could hope to be in this environment. As far as, you've got the coaches back, the quarterback is back, most of the starters are back. It's just way more stability than the majority of teams in the country. But you still don't know how players have been affected by all the stuff going on in the off season. There's just a lot of assumptions that we're making, and it's possible that whatever margins existed between these teams just won't be as big right at first, because everybody's just rusty and just trying to get reacclimated.
Yeah. LSU fans are just not having any of it, Brad. It's so funny that was such a dominating performance, start to finish. One close game with Auburn. Bama made it interesting, I guess, throughout the afternoon that day, but LSU looked like they were going to be able to handle it for the most part. LSU fans this is incredible. They lost everything that you just described, plus Joe Brady and Aranda and some other pieces, and yet they feel like they are reloading and will be right back in the mix, Brad.
That's what fans do, Bo. That's the only way I can describe it. Now, look, are they still really talented? Yes. Is there a good chance they're still one of the top 10 teams in the country? Sure. But I don't think they're going to be anything close to what they were a year ago. And then another thing to consider, just because of the number of players that they had leave early, combined with, I think it's 3 opt-outs so far. Guys, all 3 of whom would have been starters. Their depth has taken a hit. I'd be surprised if LSU even has 75 scholarship players. You're allowed 85. I would guess they're probably in the range of 75. But to me, that would be about where they would be maxing out at the moment. And so depth is a problem. And I think that's going to be a big story this season with, we're assuming that rosters are going to have positive COVID tests and guys are going to have to sit, for a couple games here and there because of it. And who knows? You might end up with entire position groups, being virtually wiped out because of this. And depth is going to be a major factor. I know there are coaches around the country who are trying to practice like 4 deep at every position because they recognize that this is a different kind of season. It's not just the injuries you have to worry about now. And it's not far-fetched to think that some guy who you weren't counting on stepping out on the field in a meaningful moment could end up starting at some point. So, more of a chance of that than you normally would have. And so I think depth is a big deal, and LSU has less of it. Look, their backups, their second-string guys are going to be more talented than most teams' second-string guys. But I think this is a year where, some teams are going to have to start to get down to third-string guys being on the field, and I'm not even sure LSU has a third stringer at every position at this point.
Wow. Brad Edwards, College Game Day on ESPN Radio. What do you think about Pelini? He's obviously a big, aggressive, kind of temperamental personality, but he's a heck of a DC. What's your take on Pelini and Baton Rouge, Brad?
Yeah, I'm really not sure what to expect of him because, he was so good defensively for a long time. As a coordinator, and then, at Nebraska, his defenses were pretty good when he first became head coach. They weren't as great later on, but, when a guy's dividing his responsibilities between head coach and everything else, it's hard to say whether that was because he lost his touch or whether he just wasn't as involved with the defense as he used to be. But we all would recognize how much the game has changed since. The short time since he was last a head coach at Nebraska. But certainly since the last time he was a defensive coordinator. You look at how much offense has really taken over. And we've talked about it a bunch of times on your show. The way that really good defenses today struggle to get stops against elite offensive teams. It's unfair what offenses can do today, and so I think it is fair to wonder what are his defenses going to be like now. What's the expectation? Because they're not going to be dominant like they used to be. Nobody's defense is dominant anymore. Not against the better offenses that they face. So we'll see. You combine that with with a loss of depth for sure. I mean, Kerry Vincent was a guy who played a lot last year. He's not going to be there. Neil Farrell, who back before the national championship game, I was reading some of the opponent's scouting reports. It was an article. I want to say it was Bruce Feldman who wrote it. I can't remember exactly, though. That we talked to a bunch of coaches, about personnel on each side, LSU, Clemson. And I remember one of the coaches he had talked to had said that Neil Farrell was one of the best non-starters, one of the best players they faced all season who was not a starter. And that's a great compliment. And so, you take those two guys off that defense, and now you're going one more spot down the depth chart. And they had already had a bunch of starters who had left from last year. And look, you've got arguably the best defensive player in college football. But outside of that, that's a really good player. But man, lots of questions.
All right, so Brad Edwards, College Game Day on ESPN on the Parish Brewing guest line. You're listening Out of Bounds on 105.9 The Zone. Don't you think they almost have to go back and be a little more conservative on offense this year with Joe Brady gone?
Oh no, not more conservative. I see. Here's the. If you want to look at what they did that really caused the big change from not just from 2018 to 19, but pretty much from the whole last 10 years before that up to 2019. It started off with a personnel change, which was just simply getting more receivers on the field. Okay, they took the fullback away and they added a receiver, and that right there just made them so much more explosive in itself. And then on top of that, they were committed to passing the ball a lot more often than they ever did before. They actually had I believe it was the third highest passing rate on first down of any team in the country last year. I mean, number one was Washington State. So, I think the two teams that were ahead of them were teams that basically just threw every down. So it just gives you an idea of how aggressive they were with the play calling and especially the passing on top of everything else. And while, you don't have Joe Brady anymore, you don't have Joe Burrow, you don't have, your top two receivers and Edwards-Helaire and all that stuff, you still don't bail on the philosophy. You still have more talent on offense than most teams in the country do. So you're not going to bail on the philosophy. You're going to stay aggressive. And, is Miles Brennan going to be Joe Burrow? No. Are you probably going to take a small step back in talent at a lot of those positions? Yes. But you can still be a really good offense as long as you don't take your foot off the gas. So I would say no, they're not going to get conservative. I think they'll still be aggressive. I think they'll still throw more than you ever saw them throw prior to last season. And I think that's what LSU's offense will become. And I think if you want to, look over to the SEC East, that's what Georgia is trying to do. I think you're going to see Georgia take that same type of approach. They've been very conservative offensively under Kirby Smart, and more run first, and pocket passing game and all that stuff. And I think they're going to try to take LSU's book and be a lot more aggressive. Are they good enough at quarterback to make the big step up that LSU did? I don't know. Georgia just lost a pretty big part of their passing game with the receiver Blaylock last week too. So they might not be in a position personnel-wise to do what LSU did anyway, but I think they're going to try. And I just think that's the future right now. It's the present. It's the present and the future of college football. And I don't care how good your defense is, and Georgia's is excellent. You're not going to win a national championship unless you're explosive on offense. Mm-hmm. And so that's why Georgia's going in that direction, and that's why LSU is going to keep trying to play that way.
Well, okay, so Brad Edwards, College Game Day on ESPN radio, joining us on the Out of Bounds show. You mentioned Kirby trying to do this. You know how difficult that's going to be for him, Brad, because he wants to he wants to rely on his D, which you said is so talented, and it is, and believe that he can eventually get a 3 and out and kind of suffocate his offense. And as he pivots with Todd Monken and whoever starts at QB, whether it's Jamie Newman or the Southern Cal kid, I mean, this is going to be fascinating if he can stick to it and open it up and keep the offense opened up.
That it's a major challenge for any defensive-minded coach, and you gotta swallow your pride, and you have to accept that it's in the best interest of the overall team, and not worry about defensive stats. Now, look, last year's SEC championship game should have been a wake-up call, and they had a great defense last year, and LSU absolutely torched them. And so what it tells you is you could have that type of defense that maybe can shut down most of the conference, but once you get into the SEC championship game, college football playoff, if you're good enough to get there, you're going to need a really good offense. And in order to play that style, you've got to be willing to put your foot on the gas. You can't bridle your offense, right? And that's the challenge. And Nick Saban had to suck it up and do it at Alabama. Gary Patterson, another great defensive coach, did it. You remember the 2014 season, that team that destroyed Ole Miss in the bowl game, that probably had a great argument to be in the playoff, and who knows what they could have done if they'd gotten in there that year. They were probably as good as anyone that season, but they, after many years of being just kind of a defensive-focused team and really dominant with the defensive numbers, he's like, all right, this is what it takes, and so they opened up the offense, and they did it. So, if Gary Patterson can do it and Nick Saban can do it, I know Kirby can do it. It's hard, man. It's hard to get out of certain habits after basically a lifetime of being in them, and just kind of look at the sport from a different angle. And the question is, how quickly can he get there? I have no doubt he'll eventually get there. The question is, can he make a complete transformation this season, or is it going to take him a little while?
Right. Okay. Brad Edwards, College Game Day on ESPN Radio. That's like Muschamp. Brad Muschamp hasn't been able to do it. He suffocated his offense at Florida and has struggled at South Carolina, makes another OC change, brings in Mike Bobo. Not sure what that's going to look like. What are your thoughts there? Same.
Well, look,
without the same talent, but kind of what you're talking about with Orgeron and Kirby not doing it for a long time, and then now Orgeron did it, and Kirby looks to be doing it.
Now, part of it is you got to have the talent to be great on offense. You can't just all of a sudden just start calling plays a certain way if you don't have the players to do it, and then as a defensive-minded coach, trust in your offense if they're not good enough to be worthy of that trust. And whether South Carolina has been there or not, I don't know. But among the things that you need to do, and look, and I think you'll see Kiffin do a lot of this at Ole Miss this year, and I mean, no one's fooling themselves that Ole Miss has the type of defense that you should trust. So for Kiffin to do it will make perfect sense. But the type of things that that Kirby should be doing are 4th and 3 at the opponent's 45-yard line. Go for it. Like the defensive-minded coach, what you've been trained all your life to do is, all right, punt them deep. We're going to pin them inside the 10-yard line. We're going to force a 3 and out, get the ball right back where we had it, and then we're going to march down and score. And first of all, your offense should be much more capable of picking up 3 yards than you probably give them credit for. And then second, 3 and outs just are not something that you can just assume you're going to do. And there are a number of offenses that can take that ball from inside the 10 and end up driving it across midfield, if not going all the way down and scoring on you. And now all of a sudden, what does that do to that decision? So I just think the way that offenses have pushed ahead of defenses over the last 10 years it has to cause coaches to completely reevaluate the decisions they make in game. And some have been a lot quicker to figure that out than others.
We'll leave it there. Oh, you want to get a real quick, Jimbo? All right. Our theory, and I think you commented on this. I've got 1 minute. Jimbo Fisher, although offensive-minded, to me, he suffocates his offense and makes it too complicated. Your thoughts?
Well, he's definitely traditional, and he likes to have the tight end, involved in the offense. And I've always loved the tight end, but I think offense is certainly more explosive if you're able to go 4 wide. But the big thing with Jimbo is just it's the slow pace, I don't know. There's so many conservative things that he does, and I'm looking forward to seeing, what does he do his last year with Kellen Mond? Can he take it up a notch? Because if he doesn't do it this year, I don't think he's capable of doing it. And so that, to me, this year is going to tell us a lot about the future of A&M under Jimbo. There'll be a quarterback change after this year no matter what. But if he can't make any significant changes here, I think it's because he's not willing to do it.
Yeah. We'll leave it there. Brad Edwards, College Game Day on ESPN Radio. Hope you're doing well, bud. We'll talk soon.
All right, man. Take care.
See you, man. Brad Edwards, ESPN, on the Parish Canebrake Brewing guest line. It's delicious beer. It's a wheat ale. I think you'll love it. It's light but craft, and it's out of the state of Louisiana. So we talked LSU the first, 10 minutes with Brad? And Parish Brewing, and one of their beers is Canebrake. Another one is Ghost in the Machine, which is double IPA, and people are raving about that. So check out Parish Brewing at the grocery store or any restaurant and bars that you may be frequenting right now. Hopefully more so as time goes on. Good show today. The podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Podbean. Search the Out of Bounds Show. The show was brought to you by Superior Foundation Repairs. Superior Foundation for all your foundation repairs. The Out of Bounds Show is powered by Superior Foundation. That's who you need to call, superior.ms, superior.ms. The show is brought to you by Superior Foundation. Good show. Steve Robertson was great. Brad Edwards, our SEC Insider hit at 7:30 was a lot of fun. Have a great Monday. We'll be back here tomorrow with Mike Detillier, baby, at 8:30 on the Out of Bounds Show.